Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome into the Valley Current. We haven't had you on for a while, and I got a note from you that made me just fall off my chair that you're exiting California after like 50 years here or longer.
75.
75 years. You were born here in California.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're a native. I came here from New York 48 years ago and came here for law school. So, I mean, I've been practicing for over 40 years, but I think of myself as a native now. But of course, I do miss New York, although not in the state of affairs it's currently in.
No.
But you made a big decision here, right? You and your wife made a big decision.
Yeah, it was a huge decision because, you know, I mean, it's hard if you're a native Californian and, you know, everything in your zeitgeist sort of relates to you're a Californian. And my wife is from here as well, Southern California as well. And so, you know, it was a tough decision, but, you know, so many factors it's such a different place now than it was even 20, 25 years ago. And it's it's not the same state, you know. So we looked around the country over the last 2 years, and Arizona kind of talks to us, you know. So we found a place down there, and we're moving the end of the month.
Well, tell me about sort of the trade-offs as you saw them between the various candidates, because it sounds like you didn't even think, hey, maybe the thing to do is go to further middle of California. Some people are moving to places like where the university is, Caltech. Is it Caltech or Cal Poly? Further south. But in the middle.
Cal Poly San Luis
San Luis Obispo. I've heard people say, hey, it's still a small town. It still is a university, not as congested, not as much traffic, not as much this, not as much that. But you still have some issues that all of California faces, like big taxes, a very liberal view towards what I'll call poverty and supporting poverty, because basically it's like we feed the homeless, which we feel compassion to do, but that attracts more of the homeless into the state. And I think there are some cities that are becoming like tent cities. San Francisco is pretty much half of it is like a tent city. I hate to say that.
No, it is. And, you know, we were just there in February for the RSA conference, and you know, you could see that the city had cleaned up its act all in and around where the conference was. But I was up there a week afterwards, and the homeless were back, the derelicts were back. You can't drive through the Tenderloin without, you know, zombies wandering around screaming at the sky, kind of thing. And you know, it's one thing to, you know, have a compassionate program to deal with the, you know, sort of the exhaust of the challenge of living in modern society. I get that, and that's fine. But, you know, when it becomes an active, by invitation sort of program, and somehow my tax dollars fuel that, yet I don't remember voting for that. So, you know, there's a lot of political stuff that just makes it very, very unique state, and not one that I want to live in anymore.
Well, it really is sort of part of the experiment that we have 50 states and, of course, possessions or whatever you want to call them, like Puerto Rico and others, right, where if you don't like a state, you can move and still be a U.S. citizen, but you move to another location, whether it's Arizona or Nevada, or some people like to go up to the state of Washington because there's zero taxes there. Nevada has zero taxes. Florida has zero taxes. Of course, there's all sorts of combinations of other factors. But the point I want to make, I've been here in Palo Alto for over 40 years. And I have to say, it just knocked me off my chair when my car was broken into. Window, like a simple shattering of a window. And, a couple of briefcases were stolen. Of course, those briefcases had some sensitive stuff in it. And of course, the cops say to me, what do you want us to do about it? You were the idiot that didn't put them in your trunk.
Right.
And the secret to the story is they apparently tried to get in the car, but the alarm went off and scared them. And they were going to rip the back seat out to see what was in the trunk. So it's not like the trunk is going to even save you. And the car was parked right here at my office, and it wasn't even that late at night when it happened. It just about floored me. And I thought to myself, Palo Alto? This is where State University is.
No, nothing's immune.
Nothing's immune. And of course, in San Francisco, people say, well, the reason you go to paid parking is because you protect your windows from being busted into outside.
Yeah, it's sort of extortionary too, because it's $60 a day
it's
to
crazy.
park your car in a garage.
Yeah, exactly. It's freaking crazy. But so for the last couple of years, you've done your search, and I take it that some of the relevant factors are like climate and taxes and culture and politics and people and all
of that. And so we looked at Oregon, we looked at Washington, we considered Texas, we considered Florida, but Florida's a hard place to live unless you like hurricanes and humidity, and my wife wasn't crazy about either. And so Texas is another hard place to live with humidity and weather and so forth. So, and the taxes are obviously attractive, yet, I don't need to pay zero tax, but a reasonable tax rate, which is what we found in Arizona, is pretty attractive. So I think we're, maximum personal tax rate there is 4.43% or something.
How close?
Very different than California.
How close did Texas and Nevada or Florida come into your thinking? I'm curious.
Not very close, because Nevada. My wife's family lived in Vegas for 20 or 25 years or so recently, and she doesn't care for the environment, and the weather there is tough. It's a tough place to live, except for a couple of months out of the year, and when it's not 100 degrees and windy, or whether it's not cold and windy. So
it gets cold. It gets cold in Nevada. Some people
it does get cold in Nevada.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It gets cold there, right?
Yeah. And in terms of recreational outdoor stuff, I mean, we're both big outdoor fans, and the tremendous hiking and outdoor stuff in Arizona. I mean, from golf to you're out in the middle of, you can 5 minutes from our house, you're off in a desert wilderness park. So there are a lot of lakes. There's a lot of that wilderness. The only downside to Arizona is that 6 months out of the year it's hot, but that has never been a consideration for me, because I enjoy the heat. Arizonans talk about it as being dry heat, but it's still hot, and there's no 100 degrees is 100 degrees. Whether you're at 2,400 feet or sea level.
Well, how high?
The difference is there's no humidity. So
how high are you going to be? Are you going to be up higher than?
No, it's maybe a couple of hundred, it may be 2,700 feet or so. But I mean, the city of Phoenix is at about 2,400, and there's no humidity. The weather patterns are interesting, but you have one season throughout the year. It's beautiful in the November to kind of April, May timeframe, and so it's a pretty good trade-off. And in my profession, there's a bunch of people who actually live in Scottsdale who are cybersecurity folks, and they've come from all different parts of the country as well. And I was talking to one the other day, and she said, look, I was in Washington, D.C., so 6 months out of the year, it was horrible from it was hot and humid, and you get out of your air-conditioned house, you get into an air-conditioned car, go to the office, it's air-conditioned, I come back, etc. What's the difference, And so she actually likes it a lot better outside of Phoenix than she did back in D.C. So And there's a burgeoning technology center there as well, and it's very, very pro-business. Well, what here, if you open a business in Palo Alto, as you well know, Jack, and maybe haven't recently, but the permit process is just crazy, right? Yeah. And it takes forever, and you got to do 400 different things. And Arizona, it takes like an hour, and you're out the door, and you've got a new business, and they're saying, "What can we do to help?" Nice. So it's very pro-business. A friend of yours and mine now, I think Scott Fuller, was when he went down and chatted with them about moving his business down there. They were like, "Come on down. This is great. We'll do everything we can to support you." That never happens here in California.
Right. Right.
So it's just a very different environment, very libertarian sort of mindset. Let people be people, and there's and spend the tax dollars the way that people voted for those tax dollars to be spent. So, all in all, and by the way, the capital gains tax down there is 3.5% compared to 15% in California. So if you have any kind of a future liquidity event that you're concerned about, it's you save significant amount of money by changing addresses.
Did you drive there, or did you fly there, or how did you find your place there? You found a place to buy there too, right?
Yeah, we drive down there easily. I mean, it's a 10.5-hour drive. It's a road trip. It's kind of fun, go down through Central California and then through San Fernando Valley, which reminds you of why you don't want to live here anymore, in case there was any doubt. And then through the desert, and there you are in Scottsdale, and everything's newer. The infrastructure is great. The roads in California, I could go on, right? I mean, the roads in California are great. What happened to the $70 billion in Measure B that was supposed to go to the highways? I mean, you have to replace your car every 2 years here.
Right. I mean, I wonder, when you think about it, do you look back and say the COVID-19 thing really amplified the decision? Like, hey, I'm at home anyway. Like, what's the difference? I'm online. I could be online in Arizona. I could be on a Zoom conference there. What's the difference? I mean, fundamentally, it's a much cheaper place. I imagine the real estate's like 1/3 the price for what you get, right?
More like 1/6 the price.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the home we have down there is easily $6 million anywhere in the.
Wow, that's a big statement.
Well, you know what your home is worth, and if you put, now, I could buy your home for $1.50 down there.
Well, I imagine that when you go out to see homes at that level in Arizona, people are like, "Are you a billionaire?" Like, people don't buy houses like this that often, right?
Yeah, there are. So in Carefree and in Fountain Hills, there are $2.5 million homes, and there's a few. I mean, there's maybe 20 or so homes that are in the $4 to $5 million range, but they are literally. You've been to Lake Como. You've seen the estates on Lake. They're like that, right? They're like 14,000 feet, and grandiose stuff.
But they're not on a lake, are they?
No. But on my point, and they're on 10 acres, and they're sitting above. They're on Camelback Mountain, and it's beautiful views. So but that's as much as you can pay is $4 or $5 million.
Right.
I mean, and then that gets you the best home.
I imagine the prices must be pushing up because more and more Californians are discovering Arizona, as you did, right?
Yeah, well, there has been a gold rush there for the last couple of years, and it was one of I think maybe the most immigrated state from California in the last 2 years. That has slowed down a little bit just because the housing supply and demand and the price points that it pushed it to. And so, we're at top of market now, I think, going forward, and certainly with COVID-19 will change a lot of that too. That the downward pressure on the housing market is going to severely impact that, and along with the mortgage availability. And Jamie Dimon came out 3-4 weeks ago and said, enough, no more. You got to be 750. You got to be 20%. No jumbo, no docs, and that's going to change that a lot. The banks look around, they say it's not the current unemployment, it's the impending unemployment.
Right.
And no bank wants to be in the real estate business. So,
yeah, it's a curious situation because, of course, Google and Facebook and others were building big campuses. I'm not sure that's all going to play out anymore because they've discovered they can really operate in a very decentralized way without all those real estate costs.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm not sure we're going to see the kind of construction that people thought we were going to see by Google and others. Google, Apple, Facebook, Netflix, all the FANG companies were building big time here, as was Microsoft and even Samsung.
Yeah, well, our friend Chris had a great idea for all of those buildings in San Jose and Santa Clara and Cupertino that, we're not going back to our offices after this is over. And Apple just invested a couple of $1 billion to build the moonshot down there. Maybe they turn those into residential condominiums and just keep a small section of that as a shared corporate environment so that everybody can sort of solve multiple problems at the same time, right? It gets a landlord's kind of return, some kind of level of equity return, and then it gets the tenants out of their leases because they're going to leave anyway, and it gets affordable housing, quote unquote, for employees. So that's probably an interesting idea. I'm glad I'm not in the commercial real estate business, though.
I think it's tough, but I think those guys really believe that people have to be together for work to get done. And you and I are kind of more futuristic, saying, hey, if you have a phone and you have a computer or a good setup, probably you're going to do as much great work in an offsite way than you would do inside of a physical office.
More work.
Yeah,
right?
there's distraction. There's a lot of distraction that happens inside of an office.
Exactly. And so not only do you have less distraction and you're more focused and you're more accessible, you're completely accessible. And then, during the normal, whatever it is, 9-hour day, now you've got a 12-hour day because after all, you're not commuting. And in most companies' cases, you're dealing with multiple time zones. So, I start my day at 5 a.m. with the East Coast, and I end my day around 5 p.m. here with the West Coast. So, and I'm not on the road, and then that's a huge stress reliever. You know what it's like to commute, even from Portola Valley to Palo Alto.
Right. I've been actually riding my bike lately because the roads are so empty. When the roads are full, riding a bike, even in Portola Valley, can be a very dangerous affair because these guys go really fast. If they get a flat tire, they're going to whack you, and that's the end of life as we know it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people on bikes now. People are saying biking is going to return to Manhattan because no one wants to be in a subway.
Yeah, sure.
Subway with somebody coughing on them, right?
There are a lot of silver linings here, I think.
Right. But let me ask you, did you have to think through the timing of selling your house versus buying a new one, or how did you think that through? Are you renting your place when you leave your place? You got a nice place down there. Are you going to rent it or sell it, or what do you do?
No, we're sold it.
You sold it already?
Yeah. One of the drivers here, in our case, in terms of timing, is that my mother-in-law is getting close to 90, and she's up in Laramie, Wyoming. And the weather in Laramie, as you might know, affords about a 2-month window for summer, and then the rest of the year is cold, and it's always windy. And so she's in an independent living facility there, and we would have brought her out here years ago, but the facility that she's in, she cost her $1,000 a month. The one next door to us here, actually, they're a few blocks away, is $4,500 a month for the same thing. So it's, and in that case, in Laramie, my sister-in-law has been providing 100% of her daily care. So, we've been trying to figure out a way to share that load more, and Arizona is a great sort of solution for that because they can come down from Laramie. She can spend 6-8 weeks at a time with us, and then go back up there. So, and then we've got extended or not extended family, but first cousin family in Denver, and my oldest niece lives in Denver. And so that whole corridor in there, from, Arizona, Colorado, Wyoming, makes it a lot easier for everybody to get together, assuming we're all going to get together one of these days.
So your house must have sold pretty fast then, right? Because you just
yeah.
Wow, that's great. So you're on your way to packing all those books because you got a lot of bookshelves in the new place, right?
You know what? It was funny. Yeah, well, that's true, and then we ended up throwing out quite a bit. It's funny, when you move. I don't know when the last time you moved was, but we've been moving sort of the last. As you may know, we left Oakland in 2004, went to Santa Fe, New Mexico for 3-4 years,
right,
and came back to Carmel Valley, and then up here. And during that 16-year period, we've hauled around about 40 boxes of books, in addition to what we have in the house. So we finally said, screw it. We haven't looked at these, and there's nothing magical here. They aren't like antique case law books or something.
Right.
So we just tossed it. We just junked them all.
You just trashed them? You didn't give them to the library or something?
Nah. Well, nobody will take anything anymore.
No. I know the law books you can give to prisons, and
great. That's perfect.
That up. Yeah. But I agree with you. It's a weird thing. If you try to give books to a library, they're like, we're just going to sell them anyway. And They do. They sell them at their little tables for $1 a pop,
You can't give anything you can hardly give anything to Goodwill anymore either, because they're very selective. And then during this period, of course, it makes it doubly hard because they only take certain things at certain times of day and so forth and so on. So anyway.
So do you just
but that was one of the drivers. We said, we've been trying to do this for Rose and Margie for a year or so. So it was just, let's just do it and be done with it.
So this is probably the last move for you, is what you're saying. This is going to be where home is for the rest of your life, is what it sounds like. Yeah.
Now, since I haven't lived there before, we'll see, right? But I mean, I never say never, but we just couldn't find anything around Carefree that we like. We sort of prefer Carefree a little bit because it's a little further out. It's 5 minutes north, west, but it has a little bit more of a Portola Valley-ish kind of feeling, where you've got a couple acres between you and your neighbor kind of thing. Yep. Right now we have a neighbor kind of next door. We have a barranca between us and other houses. And there's nothing we're at the end of a cul-de-sac. There's nothing around us or behind us except for that one neighbor. But nonetheless, we're still, we're on a block with house after, the the lots are probably 1/3 of an acre each kind of thing. And they back onto either a golf course across the street or to the barranca down on our side. But still, you're actually sort of part of a neighborhood, and we're 5 minutes from a Safeway and a Walgreens and a Starbucks and all that stuff.
What do you think? How many houses do you think you looked at before you decided on this one, the one that you chose?
Only about 5 or 6.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say 50. I thought you were going to say 50. No. Okay.
No, the market's pretty tight there. There's a lot. Most of the homes that are on the market are vacation rentals, and they're still thinking somebody needs to disabuse the Arizona real estate marketers of the notion that these vacation rentals are going to continue the way they have historically. I just don't think that's going to happen. But so we're starting to see gradually these things sort of coming off the market as vacation rentals and coming back on as sales. So.
Oh, did you actually stay in your house as a vacation rental before you bought it?
No. We did spend a night there this weekend though, and it was just lovely. It's like being at your own resort.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I'll tell you the problem I've seen, and I've had lawyers tell me this. Lawyers have said to me for many, many years, some of them who make really big money. By big money, I mean they sometimes have years where they make $100 million a year each. I mean, really super big money. And what they say to me is, Jack, when you have to pay 15 million in taxes on that 100 million of annual compensation, it gets really easy to say, I could just have my own private jet. And they literally say to me, when they do it a couple years in a row, they say to me, you know, with a private jet and a private chauffeur, I can live in Reno, I can live in Phoenix, I can live even in Dallas, and I could be in court and spend the night or weekend and still not violate whatever the rules are, 90 days, 180 days, whatever the rules are, and actually still own a pied-à-terre or something else in either San Francisco or San Jose, and they keep their California license. And here's the punchline of the story. They say, you know, it's not going to get any better because there are a lot of people like me, meaning these ultra super wealthy, successful lawyers, who say, everyone's thinking the same way. So the tax base is like vacuumed out of the system. Well, what does that do to the rest of the middle class, or even if you want to call it the upper class, that are like, I'd like to stay in California, but you know taxes will probably go to 20% from here because the problem of the big base is moving out. Right.
So where does that money come from?
Where does it come from? Because you don't have the $15 million check coming from that one taxpayer. And
our property taxes,
exactly, because look at Elon Musk made an announcement which made me say we should do this podcast. I'm selling everything, and we were laughing because we were saying, is he actually going to Mars? Like, is he taking off and I'm not coming back? But I think it's a statement that the state of California is not going to get me, and I know I'm going to be a bit of an outlaw here because I'm going to restart that factory. If they throw me in jail, they're not getting any fines because all that money is going to be in trust for my various kids, including my newborn. And it's going to be gone.
Sure.
Yeah. And there won't be any property to put a lien on, and there won't be any property to foreclose on. I mean, that dramatic.
Right.
But you take a guy like that who leaves California, and you've lost another 15 million or more per year that added to that tax base that made it easier for the rest of us to stay in California. So if that continues, I just don't know what that devolution means to the rest of California, particularly if more and more people decide to leave that aren't even that wealthy.
Sure. Gavin Newsom has a problem. I mean, these unfunded pension funds, what do you do with them? You made a promise. There's only two alternatives, and one doesn't get you reelected.
Right. Right. But the view, of course, continues to be that we'll be very supportive as a sanctuary city or as a sanctuary state. And, there's a lot of issues wrapped up in this, and it's so complicated to try to even explain to anyone what's the right thing. It's not obvious what the right thing is, but I have to say, I wouldn't want to move back to New York. New York has a city tax.
No, New York's horrible.
And
New York's horrible.
Said to me, I've been a member of the New York Bar now for almost 4 decades, California more than 4 decades, and we get opportunities to try cases in New York, and people say, well, why don't you open a New York office? New York City would seek to tax me based on the fact that I have an office in New York. So I can't have an office in New York. I have to hire a local lawyer to act as that local counsel in New York to avoid being taxed for maybe being there a week or 2 out of the year to try a case or 2. I mean, it's wild and crazy, right? But that's their view of life. So we're going to be the same problem.
Yeah, no, it's the future is not bright here.
Even without a pandemic, and with the pandemic, it only gets worse. It seems to me, right?
Sure. But you see, Jack Dorsey told everybody, "Stay home. You don't have to ever come back here again." Well, that's a precursor to him vacating offices downtown.
Yeah,
Schwab, venerable old San Francisco firm, he uprooted, and they're leaving and have left. Most of their stuff is out of here already. They've got a couple offices left.
Which firm is that?
Pardon me?
Which firm is that?
Charles Schwab.
Oh, Charles Schwab. Okay.
Yeah. So when Schwab leaves, when Levi Strauss one of these days will, may end up doing the same thing. So what's left? That's
So what's your plan? You'll be out by the end of the summer, or are you out even?
no, we'll be out the end of this month. I mean,
Wow.
2 weeks. We're leaving on the 27th, I think. Here.
Well, I guess we can't have a party because we have to shelter in place.
Can't. No. Well, we can have a Zoom party.
Are you allowed to move, or is it like a technical violation of law?
Oh, no. There's no restriction. Yeah.
You can move.
You can move. Yeah.
At least into Arizona.
At least right now. I mean, you know, so far.
No, because you got to get movers, and movers might be like viewed as, no, we're not supposed to even go into a house.
No. They're all cool.
You've got a couple of moving vans that are going to move all your stuff.
We got it down to one.
You got it down to one.
We've got a crew on this end. We got a crew on the other end. So they're all ready and it's all taken care of. So.
Well, I'm really impressed, Steve. You look like you're calm about it. I know some people would be like frazzled, but you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I sure am. And it was cathartic in a way because we got rid of so much crap. And so it's kind of, there's a little bit of starting over with regard to, objects and stuff that we carried. We looked at each other. Why have we carried this around for 16 years? Let's dump this shit.
So we got a few minutes left, Steve. Just tell me, what would you think are the 3 things you learned about making the decision and then implementing it? Because after 70 years plus in California, it's got to not be easy, but it sounds like you took control, and after a couple of years, you were able to do it. What would you say are the top 3 things you learned in the process?
So one of the things that I noticed is that it really took about a year to kind of let go of the emotional connection, you know, and you sort of look at the emotional connection. It's as they keep coming up for you, and then you have to kind of like parse them through and say, is this really important? Why is this important? Right. And that is a process that you kind of have to go through. It's almost like mourning or something.
Yes.
And then, once you get through all of that, then you have all of your friends and all of your, social infrastructure that you kind of have to deal with too, because everybody looks at you like, what are you, fucking crazy? How can this be? Right. And then we've got some friends that, close friends in Pebble Beach, and they're like, Jesus, this is a problem for us, right? They cheerlead, we won't be able to see you guys, and so forth and so on. So then we had to go through all of that too, and have that sort of be okay with us. But one of the things that says, and I don't know, longish term now relationship, is you look at each other and you say, you know what, you and I are we're the ones that are in this for the long haul. It's you and I, and then there's all of that. So it actually brings a relationship or a marriage or what have you even closer together. And, sort of facing the challenge together as a unit, that sounds kind of corny, but
I think that's accurate. I think this COVID-19 has a silver lining in the sense that couples who were having problems have either figured out a way to make it work or figured out a way to end it. Like they're not stuck in the middle anymore. It's going either to work or it's going to fail. And it's like decision time, either be committed to making it work or the opposite. And I think we're going to hear a lot of interesting stories along those lines.
Oh yeah. I think the next 2 or 3, 4 years are going to be rich with stories and tales and lots of stuff.
I look forward to driving out for 10 hours and visiting you to get the flavor of what that little road trip is like. Because I'm not a big believer of jumping on planes and spending 2 hours to get on the plane and then 2 hours on the plane and then what seems like 2 hours to get off the plane. I'd rather just drive. I often just drive to Los Angeles. So I have court hearings. I'll get up at 3 a.m. and just drive to Los Angeles. People think I'm nuts, but I get to the courthouse in time to do it.
You're halfway there.
Right, pretty much. Hey, thanks for spending the time. I really appreciate it. Let people know how they can reach you because you've got a great cybersecurity practice and they might want to reach you. Maybe you'll even lower your rates from low-cost Arizona. You deserve every penny, but you'll have a lower cost structure there.
Sking, Sking, at cybertheory.io. And my telephone number is 505-795-8855.
That's not changing. That's from New Mexico.
That's not changing. It's a New Mexico number.
Yeah, I like that. It's a 505 number. It's great.
Yep.
Anyway, take care. I'll look forward to visiting with you. Have a good
I hope you do. Tell me I said hi and come on down.
Absolutely.
All right, Jack. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.